in.
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Courtside Soundoff podcast. Once again, I'm Josh Evanoff. As always, welcome by the one and only man of the hour, too sweet to be sour, future Jiu-Jitsu world champion, Angel Ortega. Ladies and gentlemen, it is UFC 289 fight week pay-per-view going down from Canada. We got a fair bit of news as well as UFC Vegas 74 to go over. Before we jump into all that, we are brought to you by two fantastic sponsors of the show, Rogue Energy and ELYXR. Rogue Energy, keep me fueled up, keep me going throughout my day. Whether I'm at the gym, working from home, playing video games, no matter what it is, they keep me fueled up. They keep me energized. And they can do the same for you with code SOUNDOFF for 10% off at checkout. Again, Rogue Energy, code SOUNDOFF, 10% off. On the opposite end, ELYXR.com. They're going to get you really high. They're going to do the exact opposite. They're not going to keep you energized. They're going to put you to sleep with their HHC, Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 10 products. They have joints, gels. They have it all. Joints, you know what I mean? Like, if you're, hey, you know what? It's my birthday tomorrow, Angel. So, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna light up with some ELYXR. Code SOUNDOFF, 10% off. And you guys should too. Like one up for your boy, you know what I'm saying? 22 years old, so. But you know what, Angel? We're gonna be spending, I'm gonna be spending my birthday watching UFC 289. Hopefully, that goes better in the main event than UFC Vegas 74 did this past weekend, Angel. Because I'll admit it, I did not stay up for this fight card. I think this wrapped up around 1 in the morning around our time?
Closer to midnight. I stayed up for it, so it was closer to midnight, yeah.
Fair enough.
It's still late. You're not wrong.
Fair enough. Regardless, though, flyweights in the main event ends up being Amir Albazi, who gets the win by split decision, 48-47, 48-47, 47-48 being the scorecards. This was very, very controversial. In fact, I don't know if I've seen a decision that has angered the MMA fan base in quite a minute, man. I mean, just for full context, Angel, give me your thoughts on the fight. I'll say 5 rounds back and forth. I don't think anybody doubts that Kai Kara-France was the aggressor. I don't think anybody doubts that he landed more shots, but obviously Albazi had success in the grapple, nearly submitted him in round 3. What did you think about the fight, and how did you score it?
Look, I had Albazi winning, man. In the moment, right? I've gone back. I completely get both sides. I am part of the people that did think he was winning. Given the first 3 rounds. Definitely Kai Kara last 2 rounds. The judge who gave fucking Albazi the 4th round, I don't know what to say. That is criminal, you know. I will fucking admit it to it. But look, man, there's been a lot of contests around this. I have no issue with you having a wrong opinion. I have no issue with this. I think, if anything, this just opens up the conversation of scoring and kind of developing a different system. Because, I mean, Josh, people want change. People talk about it. People complain. You know, it's been talked about time and time again how the 10-point system doesn't work. And, dude, genuinely, you got to think about it. I went back to have to watch I gave you my opinion right after the fight, you know? And think about it. The judge had to make that split decision that night out. He didn't get the benefit of replaying. He didn't get the benefit of looking back. You know what I mean? That's another thing. And genuinely, I recommend everybody go watch back round 1. I do find it genuinely a hard fight to score. I see both sides of the coin. And people are like, well, how can there's already an issue with you saying you can see it one way, you can see it the other way. But I'm like, that's the nature of how it's scored, though. I think that's what is the issue. I don't think it's so much that it was, I think if, we had kind of look, let me say this, and it's something I thought of right afterwards. If we had the 1FC style scoring, where they score the fight overall, and the last rounds play a major factor, this is Kai's fight. If we have Pride style rule scoring, this is Kai's fight. But we have a 10-point system. Based off the 10-point system, this is why this fight was a split decision, and it ended up giving the nod to Albazi. If the fight was scored any different way, I think Kai wins. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. Mm-hmm. But I think because of the system we have now, that's why Albazi got the nod, and not by a lot. I mean, he ended up lucking out. I'm gonna be honest with you. He did get it. And like I said, I'm one of the people that thinks he's Albazi. And there's a lot of contests, man. I think the only reason I feel like very comfortable talking about this because there's at times where I'm on the opposite end, Josh. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I kind of come on here and I'm kind of nervous to talk about it. But there's a lot of people who are with me. There's a lot.
I understand. Yeah.
There's a lot of MMA. Like I saw a lot of guys on Twitter that we follow that we know who are on the Al-Bawzi side. I even heard a few fighters be on the Ballsy side as well, and even some fighters who were on the Kai side too. It is definitely interesting though that this is finally the one that for a while now has gotten the people rolling, when it really isn't the worst one that we've seen in my opinion in recent time. Like you said, no one will ever remember Arlovsky Collier, which is one of the a very bad one in recent time. And like I said, if you guys want to talk about robbery, and it's not exact, right? But there's a world where fucking Cheeto Vera wins fucking against Corey Sandhagen. Cheeto Vera got a whole scorecard against Corey Sandhagen. If anything, we should have been protesting at the time because there was the slightest bit of possibility that the absolute wrong guy could have got the fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this fight was interesting, man. I mean, you brought the 1FC scoring there, and you admitted that you're pretty much on the opposite side of things. I mean, look, I scored the fight for Kai Kara-France. I will admit that I'm not nearly as angry about it as everybody else is. I thought that, and look, part of it is also, I'm just as biased as ever. I'm just as susceptible as this as everybody else is. But guys, like, that whenever you're watching and tweeting the fights, like, you're all just coming to the same opinion. Like, you're all falling into the same thing. Like, I wasn't a part of that. I don't feel that rage probably because I wasn't in the echo chamber on fight night that was watching the fights and tweeting along. I just watched it on Monday morning. You know what I mean? And I had Kai Kara-France winning for sure. I gave him round 1, 4, and 5. I thought you can make a case, albeit a slight one, for round 1, being Al-Bawzi, and I don't think you can argue 2 and 3 being his rounds. I thought it was actually a relatively close fight to score. It's also one of those fights that, like, when you look on paper and, like, you see the strike counts, it looks really bad. But, like, fights aren't won on paper.
I went back and looked at the fight stats. Most of his punches, like, the majority came in the last 2 rounds, which were his most successful rounds. If you remove those and you look at the first 3 rounds, which are the main ones that are talked about, the punches are a lot closer.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's another thing, because people are everybody's, like, looking at stats, looking at this, looking at that. This is one of the times where I'd say, look, guys, stats are very deceiving because, yes, Kai had a lot of output, but that output came in the last 2 rounds. I think he had like a little over what he had in the first 3 in strikes in the last 2. And I had this conversation with you last week, Josh, of fighters need to get round 1 more decisively. Like, I feel like round 1 is one of those rounds that either gets given away or it's a hard round to score or there's something to it. You know what I mean? Like, there's always some sort of, like, right, it could be any round, but dude, one of the things that pisses me, losing round 1. Or making round 1 close. I am one of the, in fucking boxing, in anything, dude, I hate when round 1 is either given up or made hard to score.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're just feeling each other out, Angel, that's all.
No, you're not wrong. I mean, that is a thing. Let me tell you this. Like, Kai obviously didn't get, like, he found his comfort later in the later rounds. Obviously, he was aware of the Al-Bawzi takedown, and he was getting backed up to the fence, and he was the guy on the back foot. So that's another thing. But kind of to talk about both guys and kind of their, kind of look past the decision. For Al-Bawzi, man, kind of nice to see a new face. I think he showed that he's capable of fighting at this level. He showed all his skill sets. I think he still has a lot to, like, he'll not necessarily a lot to prove, but I think he'll rally back very well. I think he'll have a better performance next time around, whatever his fight may be, if it's Royval or a title shot or whatever it is. As far as Kai, dude, a lot of people are like, he has a lot of losses. He had 11 losses, but you gotta think about it. This kid's been fighting since, since 2010. He's 30, he just turned 30 not earlier this year. 6 of those losses came at the start of his career. 4 of those are in the UFC. He had a split decision loss to Mirabazi. His other 3 losses were the Brandon Royval and a crazy round 1, followed up by a second round guillotine by him, and a decision loss to Brandon Moreno in 2019. And then I believe, was it Bacon at the time, title shot, or Bacon title against Brandon, last year. Mm-hmm. So, I think people are looking at the record. Guys, it really isn't that bad. People are saying, like, he's in a tough spot. I think he's actually not in a terrible spot to come back, especially with Davison moving up to supposedly 135 after all the failed Manel Cape fight attempts. Kai's is a great guy, and and he has a very high level. I don't think we should be worried. We saw that his takedown defense. We saw his toughness in the submission game. He's not going anywhere, guys, and don't be surprised if he's fighting for a title here in a year and a half again.
Yeah, I think you fit that pretty well. I think people that are worried about Kai France should just take a look at the lay of the division. You know what I mean? Here's the reality of the UFC's flyweight division. And I love the flyweight division. I've always said that the flyweight division is one of my favorite divisions. Ever since, it's probably just because of DJ, honestly, but there's something about seeing those little fast fuckers just move, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of my favorite divisions. The reality is that it's not very deep, partially just because UFC doesn't really care about it. Like, they care about the top 5 guys in that division. They care about basically nobody else. And Kai France is one of those top 5 guys. Realistically, if Pantoja defeats Moreno, which is a very real possibility. I know that we all love Brandon Moreno, but Alexander Pantoja, the cannibal, bad motherfucker, already beat him twice. I mean, Kai France is right there. You know what I mean? Like, hypothetically, you just go out there, pick up another win, he could be right there for a title shot. So he'll be back. He'll be fine.
Yeah, and he's never fought him either. So that's another thing. He doesn't have to.
That's the big part, yeah.
Yeah. So it's
an option. Because most of those flyweight guys have already fought each other.
Yeah, especially at the top.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think that, I think that Kai France will be back. And in regard to Amir Albazi, what do you want to see next? I think a Brandon Royval title eliminator makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be time between whatever the next title. But I mean, the 125 title is only going to get defended one more time this year, and it's going to be Pantoja against Pantoja. Mm-hmm. Unless some freak show ending or ends very quick or something, which it's always possible with these guys. Maybe we see something in December, right? I don't know, but it'd definitely be interesting. But yeah, I am 100%. I am DTF Josh, Brandon Royval, Amir Albazi. That's a banger fight. And if people are upset with the decision, obviously I think that's kind of the best route to go. Make the fans happy by giving them a guy they like and a guy they don't kind of like right now. We kind of have he's kind of got the villain arc right now. Like I kind of play off it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean I think Amir Albazi, if he can keep this going, you know what I mean? Like, 'cause I saw some people shitting on him before this fight too. I don't know what it is. Maybe they just don't like his personality, but
I don't think they knew his level either, man.
No, I don't think.
100% no. I mean, yeah. Definitely a guy that a lot of people didn't know his level. I think he surprised a lot of people as far as what he can bring in the skill set he has.
For sure. That being said, I think it's about time to move on. But one last thing I do want to add. A Brandon Royval Amir Albazi fight, if they don't book that thing, I'm going to be so fucking angry.
Right? They are robbing us of because that's an entertaining aspect. Because, one thing about he brings the action.
Brandon Royval always brings the action. Does not matter who. And I think it'd be really interesting to see him take on a guy like Amir Albazi.
Dude, is he like not the same, but is he like their Chandler? You know what I mean? Like guy who's like, he goes out there, he gets that finish. You know what I mean?
He's a guy that if Brandon Royval fought at bantamweight instead of flyweight, he'd be like a top 5 beloved UFC fighter right now.
By the way, just so you know, he has finished. He's either finished or been finished in every single one of his UFC fights except one. One fight has gone to decision.
Yeah, exactly. Brandon Raw Dog Royval. Like, I think it's crazy this kid is not, I don't want to say pushed by the UFC, but like, I feel like last time he fought, whenever we saw him out in Kansas City, dog, he was curtain jerking. You know what I mean? Like, not exactly, but like he's on the early prelims.
Should have been on the main card, man. Should have been on the main card.
Arguably, like.
And dude, like, I don't even think we said this on the show. When we were in the bathroom between fights real quick, Brandon Royval was up next, because we ran in there quick because we're like, we don't want to miss this. And the guy even in the bathroom was like, come on guys, let's hurry up. Brandon Royval must watch CTV. You got to get out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Granted, that guy knew. Granted, though, that guy, like, he knew about fights, bro. He had that Clay Guida shirt on. He knew about fights.
He passed the vibe check. You know what I
mean? That guy passed the vibe check.
But anyways, man, yeah, I think it's about time to move on. Co-main event. Not a whole lot to say about this one, but what I do want to say, Alex Caceres picks up the win over Daniel Pineda, and I think that Alex Caceres, I'm gonna say it, Angel. Alex Caceres, Bruce Leroy is like low-key the greatest story in the UFC right now.
There's always one guy, and is this his? Well, no, I'm not gonna compare it to that because my heart was already broken once.
Okay.
You knew who I was gonna say.
I don't know who you're gonna say.
I didn't say Rob Wilkerson.
Oh, okay. Anyways, what I was saying, Alex Caceres, low-key, the greatest story in the UFC going right now. I mean, this is a guy that's been in the UFC since he was a young kid. I mean, he debuted in the UFC back in 2011. He started out 5-4 in his career. And in fact, he got all the way up to 14-12, and he had lost 3 of his last 5 fights. And I thought maybe back in 2019, maybe Bruce Leroy was on his way out of the UFC. And you know what he did after that, Angel? That motherfucker just said, "Fuck it, I'm not losing."
Right?
He's won 7 of his last 8 fights. The one loss in there was to Sadiq Youssef, and he's picked up wins over Daniel Pineda, Julian Erosa, Chase Hooper. I mean, Bruce Leroy is 34 now, and he's coming on, man. He's ranked 7 of his last 8. What do you think about his win over Daniel Pineda?
It's what I expected, man. I thought he would beat him. Obviously, I picked him when we were making our picks. For me, man, I think he's older right now. He's in his 30s. He's peaking. You need to give him a push. I was looking at the rankings, Josh. He didn't get moved up at all. He's still at 15. Man, I'm looking at a Calvin Kattar, Korean Zombie, Giga Chikadze fight, man. I'm looking at those 3 guys. If I'm him, those are the 3 guys I want.
Do you think they'll actually give it to him though?
That's the issue, man. That's the issue. But I don't think they'll give him Edson. I don't think he'll fight. Obviously, not Danny Ige. Coming out. Obviously, he fought Sadiq, but he lost him. But I think they should give him the push and give him one of those 3 guys, man. I feel like it's what makes the most sense. Especially a guy like Korean Zombie who's already looking like he's out the door. That ranking spot could be given to him and push up another younger guy up into the 15th spot. And it adds a new look into the division. I think, for me, the ideal fight would be a Korean Zombie fight or a Calvin Kattar return fight, for him. Cause it'd still be competitive and it'd be a guy I know who's a lot lower in the rankings, but it wouldn't give him someone, I'd say like an Ilya Tapor or a Momzar Uvalov who are like really peaking hard as well right now and who are, a little closer to Calvin, but I don't know. I just enjoy that Alex Caceres options are those 3 guys, me personally.
Mm-hmm. I hear you, dude. I want to see it happen. I mean, I think, for me personally, I think that he needs a big fight, man. I just want to see him get a big fight. I mean, Bruce Leroy, like I said, been in the UFC for a decade at this point, and basically, he's been fighting a lot of these guys that, I don't know if the UFC wants them to beat. I mean, they're throwing him a lot of these guys, man, and it's just, I don't know if they expected him to go on this run, which is partially why I don't think they did, which is why they threw Sadiq Youssef at him back in 2022 last year and handed him, his one loss during his current winning streak. I hope they give him a step up, though. I think Alex Caceres, he deserves a step up. His current winning streak came out of nowhere. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the guy. I did not see it coming. And so I think he needs one of those 3 names that you mentioned, dude. He needs a ranked guy. He needs a big name. Give it to him. He's earned it. I mean, 7 of his last 8. Underdog. And by the way, if you look up the record, I mean, you can look up, MMA odds. I can probably just find it right now. For Alex Caceres, I remember correctly, he's been the underdog in the vast majority of his last couple of fights as well. So that's another part to add to it.
I think I picked him for pretty much every fight. Even the Sadiq Youssef fight, I kid you not. I can actually prove that, too. On my MMA verdict, if anybody fucking questions me on that.
You're like, don't you fucking question me about that.
Hey man, I'm just gonna put it out there, I'm gonna be honest. But we can just move down one, Josh. I mean, I think we can kind of move down almost the whole way down. Jim Miller, man, and granted, I could have bet my fucking life on this dude. I could have bet my house, I could have bet my dogs, I could have bet everything I own. Fucking Jim Miller, man, 23 seconds into the first round. Finish, left hook, followed by an uppercut. Jesse Butler goes down and out. Very sad for the UFC newcomer, but granted, he came in on what, Josh? 3 days notice, 4 days notice?
Something like that. It might have even been 2 days notice.
And he's a guy who generally fights at 45. So yeah, he had a tall task, but especially fighting a veteran in Jim Miller, a guy who's literally seen everything. Yeah, no, just overextended, and Jim Miller caught him in it, and lights went out. It was a sick finish, though, dude. Good for Jim Miller. Fucking looks. By the way, he looked in great shape, dude. I saw him, and I was like, he did. You can definitely tell he's aged. He has that aged, older guy, healthy body who works out. But you look at him, and you're like, he's definitely not your average guy at the gym either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying. I think it is. I mean, I mean, Jim Miller went out there and fucking killed that kid, basically, man. I mean, he did the Mike Tyson hit him on the way down, dog. Like,
that shit is brutal, isn't it? That's the worst.
Yeah, I mean, he was hit. Dude, he knocked the 3-piece combination, put him out cold, and like those last 2 shots, like, land on an already out. Like, kid, like, that was crazy. But, I mean, Jim Miller, dude, you know what? Speaking of that win, though, here's the big thing. I pitched this on Twitter. It got a little bit of traction. Jim Miller said he wants to fight a UFC 300. He's won 4 of his last 5, and the one lost to Alexander Hernandez, so it's probably going to happen. I said Jim Miller versus Joe Lozon 3, UFC 300, and induct their first fight into the UFC Fight Wing Hall of Fame. What do you think, Angel?
They should, man. I get something, Josh. I am DTF'd out, Josh. I am down to fight. You know me. I love it.
Yeah, I think that's a great booking, dude. I mean, Joe said that he wanted one more, and he was supposed to fight Cowboy, and it didn't happen.
Dude, that would have been such a good fight too. I would imagine. I don't know. I mean, who knows what the results would have been.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming it would have been a banger. You know, I mean, that's 2 all-time action guys.
But Jim Miller, Joe Lozon, we're running it back one more time at UFC 300, dude. I'd be so down. Curtain jerker 2 into the main card, whatever the main card will be, because they'll definitely stack it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that those are 2 vets. They're both looking, and I said like maybe they don't have to retire, but like, you know, if they want to, they can.
Is UFC 300? Would it be next year or the year after?
UFC 300 is going to be next July, I believe.
Fuck, man, that's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, so I think that makes a lot of sense. I think Jim Miller, I mean, Joe Lozon 3, UFC 300, trilogy fight, double retirement fight.
Right.
Let's fucking book it.
Winner goes home. Winner leaves.
Right? Maybe they both retire. Like I said, double retirement, it's not another question.
Right.
I mean, it's like that. It's like that UFC Kansas City fight, man. Like double retirement. Ed Herman and our boy. So, anyways, man. I mean, as far as the rest of the card goes, UFC Vegas 74 was a solid one. What fights do you most want to talk about?
I mean, Tim Elliott, man. I mean, highlighted him last week. Also one fight under. I think it was the underdog going into this, which, dude, I was so surprised. Like, some of these underdogs really surprised me this week, when I was looking at them. But, he came out and performed, which is what I expected. I had this feeling, I'm like, guys, like, people need to put some respect on Tim Elliott, man. Like, I know he's going through some shit, but I really think, like, look, Victor Altamirano is good. He has potential. He has talent. But I just don't think he's going to get it done against Tim Elliott. Tim Elliott is not going to back down from him. He is a fucking dog. And he came out and performed, which is awesome to see, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. I mean, we talked about it on the show last week, and I'm sure everybody knows the story, but Tim Elliott has had a rough time over the last 12 months. So for him to go out there and get the win, I mean, to be honest, I was absolutely 100% sure he was going to get the win. I thought there was no way he took the anger of a year out on Victor Altamirano. You know what I mean? I was not surprised at all to see him pull off the win. I mean, rest of the card, man. I mean, Elizeu Celesky dos Santos picked up a win over Akbar Nurmagomedov by a split decision. Daniel Santos defeating John Munoz by decision. Disappointing fight, in my opinion.
Was that the one with all the groin strikes?
Correct, yeah.
Jesus.
And then we had this one sucked. Arlovsky Arlovsky losing by second round knockout.
That might be it, bro.
That might be it, actually. That might actually be it. It's the first time that he's gotten knocked out since a loss to Jairzinho Rozenstruik, actually, back in 2019. It's his first knockout loss in 4 years, so damn shame. I mean, and I remember thinking he actually looked good in the first round, too. Like, he got knocked at the end with the elbow, but he was looking clean before that, you know? So, that's the way it goes, man. But, you know, any closing thoughts on this card before we go ahead and move on?
I said that not too much. I mean, I also wanted to highlight. I'm downloading information right now, Josh. Damon Blackshear against Luan Lacerda. Great performance there as well. Mohamed Naev coming in on short notice. I think like 2 or 3 days, something crazy as well on that against Jamie Mullarkey. Jamie Mullarkey looking great early on in the first round, and then in the second, man, maybe getting a little too comfortable with Overzealous. Namaev catching him in the following round. Sick finish by him. crazy way to come into the UFC. Honestly, awesome. I know that they mentioned some stats from the country because he comes from Tajikistan. I hope I pronounced that right. And
close enough for me.
apparently they had a lot of people watching, and it was like some time early in the morning over there. They had like a few million people watch, something crazy to come out and watch because they had another Muin Gafurov who was fighting John Castaneda. He was also from the same country. Mm-hmm. So those guys brought in some attraction from there. So it's awesome to see that they were able to bring a new crowd or I should say maybe a growing MMA crowd. That was definitely awesome to be mentioned on the broadcast.
That's pretty sick. That's pretty cool. But yeah, man, I actually don't know that they had like a whole bunch of people watching in its home country. That makes sense though.
Yeah, they were pulling some numbers or anything. I don't know exactly what it was, but I think I heard in the millions. I could be incorrect, but if you do go back and rewatch the replay, they do mention it very early on, and for some reason you do want to go back.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough, man. Fair enough. But, I think it's about time we move on because we have UFC 289 coming up, Angel. Pay-per-view, we're back. Canada fans, we're back. We have, like, 2 good fights.
Dude, Josh, I don't mean this is the most stacked card of the year.
Yeah, this is the most stacked card of the year. We got Marc-Andre Barriault opening up the card, baby. I legitimately feel so bad for Canadian fans. You know what I mean? I'm not even joking, dude. Like, you know how, like, whenever the pandemic ended and, like, the UFC went to the UK with, like, some of the most stacked cards that the UK fans have ever gotten. And then they went to this is their first Canada card since the pandemic ended. And they went, fuck your maple syrup. Here's an Amanda Nunes title fight. Give me your thoughts, though, man. I mean, obviously, we got her against Irene Aldana. That appears to be the fight. Now, obviously, Aldana has had a bunch of weight issues. She doesn't took this fight on short notice. Raquel Pennington is backup. I think this is probably the first time where it's, like, legitimately, where, like, it might actually really happen. But as of right now, Amanda Nunes, Irene Aldana is the fight for Saturday. What do you think, man? Early thoughts?
Early thoughts? Well, I mean, let's get right into it, man. Amanda Nunes, I mean, the women's GOAT, right? Time and time again, we always mention it. Kind of her amazing talent, kind of how levels above she's been her competitors. Time and time again, though, Josh would say it's just like, what can anybody really do? She's just really that good. There's just this gap between her and everybody else. Is Irene Aldana the person who's going to come in and do it? I don't know. Obviously, we did have Juliana Pena, but we also had at the time, she's coming back from COVID. She hadn't been at this weight for a while. And there was stuff they added to it, and then she came back and fucking, what'd she do, 50-45 or what was the score?
Yeah, it was like 50-43. She get the fuck out of her.
Yeah, so it was like 50-43. I knew it was it was a marginally big gap in the scorecard.
Yeah.
But, look, I know Irene's been putting in some hard work at the Lobo gym and the Antrim gym as well. Obviously, Grasso, one of her main training partners throughout her whole MMA career. They actually watched the first embedded episode, and Grasso mentioned, she's like, yeah, I remember coming into the gym and I saw her sign up and sign the waiver and then she kind of, there was not a lot of girls at the time, and I asked if she wanted to train, and ever since then, me and her kind of just stuck together being training partners and helping each other out this whole time. Mm-hmm. And we're still here. And nothing's changed because, it's like, oh, another girl. Let's, we're the only girls here. Let's train together. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, for Irene, man, obviously we know her boxing is kind of her, her thing, her bread and butter. But I just don't know if she's going to be able to maybe stand in the pocket like she wants to against Amanda Nunes, or she's going to stick and move. And if the fight does go to the ground, is she going to get overwhelmed by Nunes' strength and power? Obviously, we know Nunes is capable of submitting as well. I saw that they were working on some, in that particular embedded episode, I saw they were doing some groundwork. So I wonder if they're maybe thinking about taking the fight to the ground because, maybe they thought Juliana found with the kind of success she found there, or attempting to get those takedowns, maybe it could be a factor that could lead into winning the fight. Regardless, for man, it's Amanda the whole way. Obviously, I think Irene has a lot of pressure on her. I mentioned to you this, I think privately, and I don't know if I did on the podcast, where I was like, with all these, right now with the rise of Mexican MMA, obviously Grasso, Brandon, and even Yair with the interim title, there is 3 Mexican champs right now. I know, obviously, 2 officially, but 1 with the, interim title. And, I don't know, is she overwhelmed by that? Is that playing a factor into her? Or, it could be inspiring. Obviously, she's going to be getting a lot of support and love from from obviously the Mexican fans and the Mexican fighters are always rallying back for each other, and they have them. Those guys and gals are tight. I've told you that I follow a lot of them on Instagram and Twitter, and even some smaller gals are on the come up. And they're always posting stuff about each other or pictures with each other, eating out with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see one person from one gym or another weight classing out with one or the other. She just has a lot on her plate right now, man, and I just don't know how it's gonna go. And it might just be another Amanda Nunes clinical win. I could even see a finish very early on in the first or second round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm on a similar page, man. I like Irene Aldana a lot, but ever since the fight got announced, I was even whenever they're talking about whether it's gonna be her opinion. I remember everybody was like, I don't want to see the Pena trilogy, but I was like, man, I think it'll still be more competitive than Aldana probably. I mean, I don't mean. Here's the weird thing about Irene Aldana. Like, I feel like she's gotten better over the years, but like, I don't think I don't know, man. I feel like she hasn't really impressed me much, man. I mean, she beat Yana Kunitskaya, but she missed weight. She beat Macy Shea, but she missed weight. Prior to that, she lost to Holly. She knocked her Caitlin Vieira in a banger. I mean, I'll give her credit. That was a big one, but
that was sick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much faith in her. I think Nunes is going to go and get the win here. I think on the feet, Aldana has a chance, which is why I think Nunes is probably going to take his fight to the ground. And I think on the ground, Nunes is I think her top pressure and her control is going to be a big issue for Aldana.
I'm on the same page, man. I completely agree. And look, I also got to remember, man, Irene Aldana came back and tried to box Holly Holm.
That's true.
You remember that, and you saw how that went.
Did not go well. So yeah, I mean, we have the possibility, Angel, of there being 4 Mexican champions after this weekend.
Bro, that would be the craziest shit ever, man. I mean,
dude, you know what's funny is I remember hearing everybody talking about the Dagestanis and the Russians, and to be clear, like, they're not lacking in representation, but like,
oh no, they're not. They're everywhere, man. There's no issue there.
No, there's not. But
they're everywhere, man.
The Mexicans took over the fucking sport this year, dog. I mean, Moreno champ at flyweight, Volkanovski champ, not Volkanovski. Obviously, Volkanovski's the unified champ at 145, but Yair has the interim title, obviously. So I still count him as a champion. You know what I mean? ELYXR Grasso's champ. For pure chaos, I kind of want to see Aldana win.
Could you imagine the sport if that happened right now? Like, it'd be like, look, I think it'd be a very good thing, right? Because of like, how this division's looked at, right, and all of that. But I mean, that's not up to us, man. So we'll have to see this weekend what Irene can do. Like I told you, I'm curious to see, does she crack under pressure? Does she do anything? Does she close the gap at all? Or is there still this gap between Amanda Nunes and everybody else?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that there is a relatively large gap, but I guess we'll see on Saturday, In terms of the co-main event, I think, let's be honest, dude, the co-main event is the real main event, the people's main event.
The people's main event.
It is. I mean, let's just be honest.
I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
not disagreeing with you, champ. I'm not disagreeing with you, champ.
Oh, I thought you were doing a bit. All right.
No, you're good, champ. You're good.
You're good, champ. All right. Anyway, so I think that this is the real main event of the evening, if we're being completely honest. Charles Do Bronx Oliveira. The champion has a name, Angel. And he's back, taking on Beneil Dariush. Obviously, Charles Oliveira been gone since last October when he lost to Islam Makhachev. The ending to the Oliveira era, which in my opinion was some of the most fun time I've ever had in MMA. I said to Angel in the green room when we were talking about some of Oliveira's most recent wins, I was like, I wish I appreciated more in the moment. You know what I mean? Like, because Oliveira's win streak is not one that you're not going to see. You're not going to see that for a very long time. But he's taking on Beneil Dariush, 34 years old, long been trying to get a title shot, putting together not a Oliveira type run, but a very entertaining run that many people did not expect. He's won, I believe, 8 fights in a row, including a win over Mateus Gamrot last October. Many thought that would get him a title shot. It did not. He will now have to go through the former champion this weekend to get that title shot. Angel, do you think he does? I know that a lot of people, everybody loves Oliveira, but I think most people have also come to the conclusion this is kind of a bad style matchup for him a little bit.
I mean, it can be. Obviously, we'll have to see. I'm curious to see how these ground exchanges are, if they even happen, if the fight mostly takes place on the feet. For me though, man, Beneil Dariush obviously, fighting submission ace and Charles Oliveira. We've seen it. Who's has shown confidence and a lot of growth in his stand-up game, and where a lot of success came during his title run at that, man. It wasn't the submissions. It was the finishes on the feet, man.
Mm-hmm.
But Beneil Dariush, man, not one afraid to back down. Obviously a guy who's very well rounded, has a great jiu-jitsu game himself as well. Will he be able to match up against Charles Oliveira though? We'll have to find out. I mean, that's a big question mark for me. On top of that, he is a heavy-handed motherfucker, man. We saw him drop Gamrot with a right hand from hell, which, dude, that fucking right hand, I don't know how the fuck Gamrot got back up from that, dude, because he dropped him bad. Like, you heard it crack, you heard it everything, and I was like, fuck, that shit was loud. But I don't know. I wonder what's gonna happen in that department. For me, man, I'm leaning the Beneil Dariush way. The main thing for me is I think he's gonna be confident on his feet. I think he has a lot of faith there. I think he's willing to drop bombs and trade with Oliveira, and he has no fear of being taken down or going to the ground because he knows he can defend and throw up his own submissions if need be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I think I've been going back and forth on this fight all week, man. And the reality is that I think Beneil Dariush, like, on paper, is a really tough style. I mean, that's why I brought it up, honestly. I think, like, on paper, stylistically, it's a really tough matchup for Charlie Olives. But fights aren't fought on paper, Angel. Because the Oliveira era is beginning this weekend at UFC 289 at the Rogers Center in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. The Oliveira era begins again, baby. You heard it here first.
You know something? Base pick. I wouldn't be surprised, man. I really wouldn't be.
I don't know if I believe it, but I kind of at this point, like, I kind of like just doing hype picks, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, my shit's already fucked up. Picks for the year, so.
Is it really?
Yeah, we're tied. In case you guys are curious, you know what's funny is we've gotten a big influx of like subscribers and listeners or whatever. I don't know how many people know, but like I've won the last, since 2020 to this year, I've won every single year in the picks. Like, but this year we're tied 34, 26, and 1. It's gonna come down to the fucking wire, dude. Unless we just randomly start like just going off, but
I try to lock in my picks more this year, man. But even then, I mean, there's been a lot of fucking upsets too.
There's been a lot of upsets, yeah. But
yeah, so. Anyways,
man, we also, obviously that's the co-main event. And let's be honest, the main event and the co-main event are doing a hard carry. I mean, Charles Oliveira, I'm worried that he may not be able to make the fight this weekend based on the fact that he's having to carry this card so hard. You know what I mean? He may damage his back. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, we'll talk about the rest of the fights on the main card, man. I mean, we got Mike Malott coming back against Adam Fujic. Obviously, Mike Malott, arguably the best prospect of welterweight right now. Granted, there's a couple of other names you could also throw in there.
There's so many, man. There's too many.
Yeah, true that. But he's coming off a couple big wins in the UFC. I'm expecting him to go out there and get another big highlight win here. What do you think, man?
I'm on the same boat, man. He just looks like he has that it factor. And he's in fucking Canada too, representing. I'm sure he'll get a lot of love and being on the main card. It's just the perfect story, man. It's written in the stars.
For sure. And they put him on here for a reason. You know what I mean? Like,
they know. They know.
Yeah. They know that this kid's the real deal. So, anyways, man. Featherweight banger, dude. This fight, is probably going to be the best fight on the main card. Probably the best. It's almost definitely going to go down as fight of the night. Dan Ige. 50K Ige, who's coming off a win over Damon Jackson in January, knockout inside of 2 rounds, taking on Nate the Train Lane, where Nate the Train is in the UFC, baby! Let's go! I love that, man, every time. Nate the Train, man, let's fucking go. And this is his big moment, Angel. I mean, everybody talks about him being like an entertaining fighter and him being a wild guy. But 4 wins in his last 5, including over some pretty decent names. Do you think he can go ahead and pick up the win and potentially be ranked after this weekend?
I don't think so, man. I think he's going to get punished against Danny Ige. I don't think he'd come forward like that. I feel like Danny Ige will take advantage of that and be able to put a guy out. I mean, I don't know if you remember, dude, but when Gavin Tucker ran across the cage to come at Danny Ige, he put his lights out in 22 seconds in the first round, and I don't think Nate Landwehr is going to be able to do the same thing. He's been caught, too, before in the first round. Herbert Burns with a knee. Julian Rosa also a flying, it was a flying knee, the other one from the clinch. Look, he's captured some good wins. I just don't think if he fights the way he has fought, it's going to work against Danny Ige. I think he'll get punished against Danny Ige.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, same page. I mean, as much as I love Nate the Train, I would love to see Nate the Train title run. Don't think it's going to happen.
I feel like at some point he'll hit his ceiling. I mean, he could be Danny Ige. You never know. But I think he has a limit, and it's just a matter of time before we see it. No matter what, he's a fun guy. But like I said, I mean, he could prove me wrong, and I'd be perfectly okay with that. He's a super entertaining guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I'm going to go ahead and take Danny Ige, though. I think he is the cleaner striking. I think he really only needs it to hit. I mean, he's an underrated guy, I feel like, Danny Ige. Like, there are some guys that excel this better than others, but I feel like he excels at finding the shot. You know what I mean? And I think he's going to find against Nate Landwehr. No offense, he hangs his chin up way too much in the air. I mean, he could wear him down and maybe win a decision, maybe get him out of there late in the fight, but I just don't think it's going to happen for him.
No, I mean, there's certainly a path to victory. You're not wrong. It's just, whether or not he does it, obviously. I just don't think he'll be able to do it against Danny Ige. And like I said, we'll see his limit soon rather than later.
Mm-hmm, for sure. But opening up the main card is a middleweight tilt between, as I mentioned earlier, Marc-Andre Barriault, who, coming off a knockout win over Julian Marquez in March. He's going to be taking on Eric Anders, who, your boy, been around in the game in the UFC for, a long time now, like over 5 years. It's like he's been in the UFC for a deceptively long time. Over 5 years, I believe. But anyways, nonetheless, what do you think about this fight, man? Pretty even, kind of a pick 'em in my opinion, but what do you think?
Yeah, kind of a pick 'em too. I mean, for me, it's kind of like if Eric Anders can find success early on in the first or second round. I think if the fight kind of draws on, I think Mark could find some success later on and kind of get a decision win if he can, avoid the athleticism of Eric Anders early on and avoid any big shots or pressure.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm gonna shoot. If I could flip, I don't have a coin next to me though. I'd flip a coin. I'll go ahead and take Marc-Andre Barriault.
I'm on the same boat. I mean, I'm picking the Canadian as well.
Yeah, I think in his home country,
it's poetic again, man.
Yeah, I mean, and also Eric Anders just, I don't know if he's coming or he's going half the time, man. He just, I don't know, it's just so inconsistent. So I'm gonna go ahead and take, but not the Marc-Andre Barriault is the symbol of consistency, but I'm gonna go ahead and take him.
Oh, come on.
They
almost have identical records. It's kind of scary. I mean, it's one loss of difference.
Yeah, right. But while we're speaking of middleweights, might as well go one down. I think it's crazy this fight was not put on the main card. Nasruddin Imavov.
It should be one up, realistically.
It should be on the main card. But taking on Chris Curtis, both these are ranked middleweights coming off of losses. They both need a win. What do you think of this one, man? I think this fight's going to be an absolute banger.
Oh, no, I love it. I mean, Chris, obviously, the older fighter, 35 years old, in need of the win, going on 36 this year, was in the rankings, has fought, there's one thing you can't take away from Chris Curtis. This fucker fights, man. He has fought so much since he's coming to UFC. This will be his, seventh fight? What is that, yeah. Seventh fight in the UFC. What is it? Phil Hawes' first fight, Brendan Allen, Rodolfo Vieira, Jack Hermanson, Joaquin Buckley, Kelvin Gastelum, and now Nasruddin Imavov. I mean, he's fought essentially the who's of this division and names that are known in this division as well. I mean, those are all guys you know. If you watch the sport, you know every single one of those names. Not a single unknown name in that mix of guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And Chris Curtis, he's actually had a bit of week, He had his podcast debut alongside Sean Strickland, He's coming back for his sake. I hope it's not another close decision because he'll have a heart attack, just based off of the last fight where I saw he was really upset about the Kelvin Gastelum loss. For his sake, I hope however it goes, it's decisive. But, I mean, I like Chris Curtis, though, man. I really like Chris Curtis. I mean, I'm a big fan of that guy, you know. I remember seeing after his last fight where people were mad, you know, that he was mad about the controversial loss to Kevin Gastelum. I was like, man, if I were Chris Curtis, I'd walk around mad all the time. Like, it's just, this guy should have been in the UFC, like, at least 5 years before he actually was. So, I get his anger. But, nonetheless, excited to see him back. We'll see how it goes. But, I mean, as far as the rest of the card goes, I mean, it's definitely light. It's pretty light. Not to say there's not good names, but it is pretty light, man. Obviously the big one, my fighter to watch for this week, Angel. Not a whole surprise. I mean, if you, come on, it's not a surprise. Miranda Maverick. Obviously I've highlighted her for a long time. I was there for her, you know, her early fights over in Invicta. I was cage side getting to cover them and seeing her development and seeing her improvement from fight to fight to fight is just so impressive. Riding a 2-fight winning streak, and she's ranked number 15 at women flyweight. Looking to pick up a winner of Jasmine Jasavicius. I think she will. I think Miranda Maverick, man. I've always said Erin Blanchfield's probably like, you know, she's the one I've always been most confident of like a prospect that like I think has the ability to be champion. Miranda Maverick's not far behind her. I think she's also very good. But, you know, in terms of this UFC 289 pay-per-view card, any closing fights you want to talk about? Any fighters you want to highlight, man?
I mean, there's some other hidden names in there. Obviously, David Dvorak, obviously the late opponent change, was supposed to be Matt Schnell, which is going to be a great 125 event. Steve, Erseg? Where's he from? I believe Australia, coming in on short notice, 9-1 guy. I mean, who knows? Maybe he can come in and make some noise. Big opportunity here against the older, experienced fighter. One of the older guys in flyweight, trying to make looking for a big statement win here, because I think he's coming off a loss. Yep, coming off 2 losses with no Kate Matias Necla, both decisions. So kind of a nice one to potentially bounce on here. The ever so loved Twitter gal Deanna Belvita coming in against Maria Oliveira should be a banger fight. I think this will be an underappreciated fight, especially because it's opening up and it's a women's fight too. But I definitely, for anybody, if I were you, I'd tune in. I feel like we're in for a good one there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, and overall, I mean, for as much as I shit on this card, it's probably going to be fun, man. I feel like anytime the UFC, they're in front of a rabid crowd, and I know this is one's going to be, the show ends up being better regardless. So, yeah, man, I think it'll be fun. We do got a couple of things to go over in terms of news, including a big fight announcement. Angel, it has been over 2 years since Chris Weidman snapped his leg at UFC 261 against Uriah Hall. Over 2 years later, he will now look to return against Brad Tavares at UFC 292. He would look to do the impossible and pick up a win. What do you think about it? Is this the right booking? And what do you think about Chris Weidman even returning to the octagon in general?
I mean, I don't know if it was a good idea, man. I kind of thought it was done after that, after the leg break that we were. I mean, you were there for it, weren't you? Didn't you come out and watch that with all the guys that night?
Pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, we were all there, and fuck, man, I remember everybody's reaction, everybody's freak out. I thought that was the end of Chris Weidman. I didn't think he was going to come back after that. I thought that was the end of the career. He was doing some stuff through some broadcasting stuff, doing some pre-show stuff for the UFC, doing some podcast stuff, and I thought that was kind of the direction he was going to go, which I was like, dude, that's awesome. That's cool to see. Because he's definitely a fun guy to listen to, has a really fun personality once he kind of gets to let it out, something that I never saw outside of just him fighting in general. But I just don't know, man. I mean, if he wants to come back, man, that's completely your choice. You're your own man. And maybe he can do some stuff. I always said, man, if he was healthy, I think he would have been one of the most interesting matchups for Izzy because of the wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. Obviously, I think a potential Izzy fight is way out of the equation.
I mean, at this point, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I think, he can still put on fun fights, man. I think, I think that some people want him to, like, retire, and I get it, but, like, I'd encourage people to go watch his grappling match with Owen Livesey, or Livesey, I apologize for pronouncing his name wrong. But regardless, nonetheless, it was a pretty entertaining grappling match, and you saw Weidman actually working in there, and he looks not like, I don't know, he's not a world beater or anything. He doesn't look like he's in a great position in life, but, like, he's still improving. He's still getting better. And I think that, not improving or getting better, but I mean, like, in terms of not compared to his prime, but compared to the leg break. I feel like I have to keep on putting, like, asterisks on it. That way people know what I'm saying. But, like, yeah, he's improving compared to the leg break, man. I think he looks more mobile these days. He seems to be in good shape. Let's see what happens, you know? Let's see it. Fuck it. But, you know, it is what it is. UFC 292, that fight card obviously going to be headlined by Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley up in Boston. So it's going to be a fun one. Next bit of news, we got Tough Talk. Now, granted, we're not going to talk about the episode this week because by the time we're filming, it's not out yet. But that being said, we're going to go and talk about the ratings because, Angel, we talked about, before this season started, we said, okay, you know, Tough, nobody's watched it in years. This should be the big one. You know, this should be the season where everybody comes back, people were watching. The Ultimate Fighter episode 1, man, disappointing ratings, instead, actually. Ends up getting 294 ratings, which is less than half of what Conor's last Ultimate Fighter coaching appearance, like, stint was when he was against Uriah Faber. So, pretty shocking numbers, man. What do you think about this news?
I don't know. I wasn't that surprised because of, you know, think about at the time when the original Conor season happened, kind of, and that was peak, right? That was the pinnacle, right, at the time of his career. And now we've kind of, you know, he's a few years off, stuff has happened, lost fights. Obviously, the state of the world, too, has changed a lot, you know. Price of the fucking ESPN subscription has changed like 5 times. Fucking pay-per-views, too, at that. It doesn't come as a big surprise to me. I saw someone laid out really well on Twitter. I almost wish I had that tweet pulled up because I feel like they had a really good explanation. They were very articulate in the way they worded it. I wish I could find that. I don't know. But like I said, to me, it doesn't come as a surprise. Obviously, it's a bit disappointing. And because it seems like it didn't shape up to be a good season. I don't know. I mean, outside of that, I don't have too much else to say.
Yeah, fair enough, man. Obviously, in terms of, like, I knew that it was not going to be, like, for example, I knew it was going to pull it over 1 million, right? But I expected it more, I guess. I think this is kind of just the death nail to Tough. I feel like, if anything, not to say that, because, like, you know, 294,000 people is not a small number by any means, but yeah, man. I mean, that number for the Conor McGregor, Michael Chandler coach season. Do you think it's just people are just sick of the show? Do you think people are just done with reality TV, Angel?
Maybe. I don't know, man. Well, you know, there's still some reality TV that gets a lot of attention, like The Bachelor. Survivor knows another big one. Big Brother, you know, so it's definitely not done because I know stuff like that still gets rating. What else? The Amazing Race, right? Like, I know those are stuff that's still around. That still has been going on forever, and they still get attention, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair enough. I don't know, man. It's just, yeah, and there was also way less traction, people talking about it than I expected as well, which was another part of it. But regardless, man, I think that, yeah, it is what it is. I think that this season is interesting. I'm excited to talk about it next week because we'll probably film on Wednesday next week, so we'll actually be able to talk about the show. But, yeah, man, overall, surprising ratings, man. I was very, very surprised at how few people seemed interested. Nonetheless, though, we do have a little bit more news to go over. Ryan Garcia, some news, about him. He's been kind of low-key, man. Ever since the loss of Gervonta, we heard that he left Coach Joe Goossen. And we've seen some chatter about issues with Oscar De La Hoya, but we haven't heard anything confirmed. Well, it's been confirmed. He said he did a video alongside Bradley Martin, YouTuber, who, funnily enough, we already mentioned, called him a dumbass last week for saying he could beat Devin Haney in a street fight. But regardless, he was talking to Ryan Garcia, and Ryan said, after I lost, everybody left me pretty much. Everybody abandoned me. My management and team didn't even show up to the post-fight press conference. I had nobody left, and I'm making my entire new team. Angel, what do you think about that information, man? I mean, the press conference thing we knew, because Oscar did not show up. And then afterwards, I'm not sure if you saw this part of it, Ryan Stedless comments, and then Oscar De La Hoya lost his fucking mind on Twitter.
Yep, I saw that too.
What the fuck is up with it, man? What's going on?
I don't know, man. This is boxing for you, dude.
Yeah.
This is the state of boxing. I don't know for the team thing and them not going to presser. There might have been some miscommunication thing that I read somewhere. I don't know. Obviously, I don't remember the exact thing that I saw. For kind of to mention that a little bit or touch on that topic. I mean, he moved teams. I mean, he's changed coaches like 2 or 3 times already in his career. I mean, there's guys who've done that a fair bit. I mean, Joshua did it, right? Like,
yeah.
In recent time, Wilder's done it. I mean, it's definitely not an uncommon thing. But he's so young, it makes you wonder, is this a him thing? Is it a coach thing? Is he not really satisfied? Is he indecisive? I don't know. I feel like one of the biggest mistakes was getting away from Eddie Reynoso, man. I know that he said he felt like they weren't giving him a lot of time, but at the same time, the guys he had there were champs. He had to put a lot of time into him. He felt like they were getting some more attention. But according to Canelo, he said that Eddie was always available, he was always there, and that if he needed anything, they would obviously they would help him out. It is what it is, man. I think I really hope Ryan can find himself on the right path again and kind of put himself in a position to find success because he's a good guy, he's a good kid, he has talent, and he brings a lot of attention to the sport. He's capable of bringing a lot of eyes, like we saw in the Tank and in his fight. But man, this is just boxing, man. There's drama. The only thing is, unlike something that boxers can do, unlike MMA, is that they can they can stand their ground. Where in MMA, you can't really stand your ground against Dana or your promoter at that, for the most part.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, this Ryan stuff, man. It just it's disappointing, man. I mean, if it's true that. And that's partially because of the Eddie Reynoso situation and the way that things ended with Canelo. I'm like, did they really abandon you, Ryan? Like, just because if you keep on crying wolf, it's like, at a certain point, I'm like, eh. But then I saw Oscar lose the mind on Twitter, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I can believe that Oscar De La Hoya was not true in supporting Ryan Garcia. You know what I mean? Yeah, man, it's sad. It is what it is. It's not all that unsurprising, but you got to look at. I
do miss that old time though. Like, I know I cut you off there, but damn, bro, when he had fucking Canelo and fucking Oscar right there watching him ringside in this fight, he gets that knockout and the music starts playing and the hype and all the crowd. And it's like, damn, this kid really is going to be a superstar one day.
Yeah, and he's still. I mean, he's a superstar.
Oh yeah.
But the thing is he doesn't have the fighting ability seemingly to compete with the likes of the top guys in that division. And also, furthermore, it's like...
Well, I don't know, Josh, because, I mean, this is the kid who beat Luke Campbell, the Olympian, and...
Yeah, no, I'm not doubting that. But there's also a difference between Luke Campbell and the top of the division.
But, dude, Luke Campbell fought the who's who of the division, and he had his moments, he had his success as well.
Yeah, no, I'm not disputing that he didn't have his moments or he didn't have success.
And look,
it's one fight against top echelon. I'm saying like champions, top 5 guys. I don't think Ryan's going to be able to compete with them.
I mean, I don't know yet. I honestly don't know. I mean, he had one against, he had this one against Trevante. He had the fucking rehydration clause. He was at 136. He said he wants to fight at 140 regularly. I mean, there's still a lot, man. I don't know what his cap is still. You know what I mean? And
fair enough. And I'm not writing him off. I'm just saying, with all that's going on. And realistically, you got to think, this is another thing I mentioned to someone. Look at where Tank was in his career. Like, look how good Tank is in his career, and look how where Ryan's at his career. I feel like they were at 2 completely different places in their career. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, Ryan had, one fight against a guy who contended for the title before, a big contender, where Tank had already defended his titles multiple times against some fucking killers, and guys who have proven themselves against other guys as well.
Yeah. No, for sure. And like I said, I'm not writing him off. I'm just saying I question if, with all the changes, we know right now he can't compete with the top echelon. But it's the moving forward. Will he ever be able to? I question if he'll be able to because of all these constant camp issues. But, I mean, hey, we don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not even saying it's his fault, but, we'll see what happens, man. Speaking of boxers, Clarissa Shields, she talked to Ariel Helwani and said that she is in talks to return to the PFL. Is that something you're interested in? I know that PFL is still trying to make some big acquisitions. She fought twice, went 1-1, lost to our girl Abigail Montez. But now, I mean, Clarissa Shields said she's down. She said she wants to improve. She's coming off a big win in her hometown of Detroit over the weekend, man. What do you think?
I mean, man, that's where the money's at for, female combatants. If she wants to make the big bucks, she's going to have to do it in MMA, man. I mean, she could do it in boxing and get some good paydays, but it's, in comparison to what she could potentially get in MMA, I mean, that's a lot more. And I don't know if she's truly serious about it and she can find success. Obviously, she's surrounded herself around the right group and the right people. She could definitely do it. She just has to be committed. But the thing is, it's hard to go back and forth between sports. I mean, I don't know. Let's say if she would have grown up, she would have done the whole Olympic, kind of what Henry did, right? He went to the Olympics, he did the whole wrestling, and then he transitioned to MMA. If she would have done the whole thing with boxing in the Olympics and then transitioned into MMA, and maybe she went back to boxing, maybe she could have got away with it or done some stuff there. I don't know, man. It's just too hard, I think. But I mean, who knows? If she's this special as she seems, maybe she could find some success in those sports. It's just gonna be a very tough time. And she's shown that she's definitely capable of toughing stuff out and really winning fights. Because we saw her rally back in her first fight in MMA and get the win.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that in terms of Clarissa, I'm glad she's coming back to the PFL. I think it's really cool that she's not just gonna leave on a loss. I think she could have easily done that and just gone back to boxing, and nobody would have blamed her. I think it's actually pretty cool that she's gonna come back. Because I was admittedly never I was never a big Clarissa Shields fan, but I've become more of a fan over the last few years, man. She's just willing to fight anybody at any time,
She's
willing
a dog,
to come back to MMA even after losing. What were we saying?
She's a dog.
Yeah, she is. She's got that dog in her. So, props to Clarissa Shields, man. Funnily enough, there's actually one that I'm gonna break news to you right now, but it's not gonna be our final topic. So it's gonna be right now, Angel. Jake Paul. We're not talking about a fight right now, Angel. Jake Paul is a YouTuber. He is a boxer. Apparently, he said he's going to do MMA at some point in time. I'm sure he'll fight fucking Roy Jones Jr. in MMA or something. But Angel, he's also now he's not just a boxer, MMA fighter, a YouTuber. He's an actor, Angel.
Oh,
broke news.
You forgot podcaster too, John.
Podcaster Jake Paul will make his acting debut. The film follows a small town youth rising to international fame through combat sports. Angel, on a scale of 1 to 10, give me your Letterboxd anticipation rating for Jake Paul's.
10, Josh. 10. I'm so excited.
You're thrilled for it, aren't you?
Yes, dude.
10. Also the amount of tickets that will be sold to this fucking thing. Yeah, I just saw that on Twitter right now. I had to bring it up, man.
I mean, shit, dude. I mean, if he does it right, maybe he could be half decent.
The most out of nowhere news, man. That's just so funny. Anyways, man. I had to bring that up.
By the way, when is he going to make his debut in the PFL, man? That's what I want to know. I mean, we've seen him with Bo Nickel. He's been doing some stuff there. We saw his brother with Izzy and Volk. When are we going to see Jake in the cage, man? That's a better question.
Next year, allegedly.
Allegedly. Him and Ngannou both debut in the PFL. On the same
right.
They're gonna fight
I think that if we're talking about Jake Paul's MMA debut, I think Francis Ngannou is looking for an opponent, so I don't.
I mean, it's $1 million, man. Shit, I'd take that.
I mean, we talked about this, on the show, for the amount of money that Francis Ngannou's PFL's opponent is going to make. Yo, I got no problem going out there trying to play the dance, you know what I mean?
Right? I mean, Josh, when you see red, it's done for Francis.
Yeah, dude, if it's true that Francis Ngannou's opponents are going to make $2 million just for fighting him, doesn't matter how they do, Francis Ngannou, I'm calling you out right now. Once I see red in that PFL smart cage,
it's over.
What's the deal with the PFL? Why do they call it the PFL smart cage? What's so fucking smart about it anyway?
Because it collects data, supposedly. It's really into data shit anyways. I'm not even going to get into it right now.
You're not down to talk about the PFL smart cage, Angel?
Dude, it's one of the really, I feel like if the smart cage wasn't a thing, it would actually make the PFL better. As someone who really likes the PFL, enjoys a lot of the fighters, and wishes they would say, fuck the tournament style.
Yeah.
Just be a regular promotion and, make fights, based on rankings or whatever, or who deserves it. Yeah, I think it'd be a great fucking promotion, actually. But
same page too, by the way. Same page.
But they're not doing that, so I feel like they were limiting or at least capping themselves off. Because at one point, I mean, shit, they were the World Series of Fighting. Series of Fighting had some traction, man. They had Rumble in there. They had Justin Gaethje. They had Marlon Moraes. When they got Marlon Moraes back,
they had a compelling roster at the time.
Yep, they did. And shit, like I said, they got Marlon Moraes back now too, but not the version that left them.
Yeah, right. Anyways, man, I think we should. Last topic of the day. Prime is the official sports drink of the UFC. And now Prime has their first ever UFC athletes. Logan Paul and KSI's brand has signed Alexander Volkanovski and Israel Adesanya to their brand. I think they could not have picked two better people, to be straight up with you. I think it makes a lot of sense. And then we also got to see a couple training videos of Logan Paul rolling with Volkanovski and rolling with Izzy. That was actually pretty cool, man. What do you think about all this news?
I loved it, man. I was really curious to see what was going on there. Definitely the right choice. But also, does this mean fuck body armor? Like, is body armor just gone?
I believe so. I believe we're on team fuck body armor. Yeah.
So, like, the UFC no longer has the body armor sponsor.
I believe so. Yes.
Hey, man. As someone who really enjoyed body armor, this is a little heartbreaking, but you know, I'm down.
I like Prime more than body armor.
What's your favorite Prime flavor?
Probably. What's it? That's actually a good question. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it. I need you to rank your favorite Prime flavors.
I have a lot of them. Now. I've only had 2 of them.
Okay, stat rank.
Oh fuck! How many have you had? I've wanted to try some of the other ones. Like
I've had Ice Pop, Meta Moon, Grape. I found their website. That's how I found all the fucking. Yeah, I believe that's it actually. Oh no, I think I had lemonade maybe. No, I had strawberry watermelon too. So yeah, I've had like 4 or 5 of them.
Really, like I said, I've only had the red and blue one.
Ice Pop is like I gotta admit, Ice Pop clears. Ice Pop clears. I mean, if we're being completely honest.
Ice Pop is S tier?
Ice Pop is S tier. I told you this story, but I think it's a couple of like weeks ago. I took some edibles and I took way too much, and I woke up at like 2 a.m. after sleeping for like a ridiculous amount of time, and I went in and I downed an entire Ice Pop Prime. It was the most thirsty.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
you remember the story now?
Yes, I did.
Dude, if I didn't drink that Prime, I was gonna literally die in that kitchen.
I mean, Josh, that's why it's the hydration. That's why it's the number 1 hydration drink of the UFC.
Yeah, right.
No, but I do want to try the Ice Pop. I want to try the Meta Moon. I want to try the lemonade, but you know, it's fucking impossible to find.
Yeah, I mean, I find them at 7-Eleven and Walmart all the time, so you know.
I'm just not looking at the right ones. So
I guess so. But
I'm gonna have to head out your way and hopefully get myself a little 12-pack with mini fridge.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I legitimately like Prime. I think it's hilarious because it's like I wasn't expecting to like it. I was kind of like, oh, well, that's cool. Like they got YouTubers have their own drink brand. That's pretty cool. We haven't really seen that before. And then it turned out to be actually really fucking good.
And now they're actually like a staple. They sell a lot. They're everywhere. Like you can find it, right? Because, you know, there was times where YouTubers did have certain products or put out toys or something, and you couldn't find it, you know, regularly available everywhere. We're in fucking Kansas, and we have fucking Prime at our gas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, we're not, you know, it's like, it's not only in the big major cities. I mean, Prime is everywhere.
Exactly.
Just wait till Prime becomes the official drink of the NBA. No, I think Gatorade has those unlocked.
Yeah, that's got that unlocked. Yeah, they're not going anywhere.
Because, what is it, the NFL and the NBA both are Gatorade, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely, unless fucking they drop some crazy bag or something, man, it's never going to change. But it's nice to see a competitor in the mix.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I thought it was really cool getting to see Logan rolling with Volk and Izzy. Like, I've always said, like, Logan Paul boxing, will I watch it? Yes. Logan Paul, like, doing WWE or even having an MMA fight is way, way more interesting to me. Like, you know, everybody, you know, we talk about it, right? Like, but I don't know how many people are aware. Like, Logan Paul, like, wrestled in high school in Ohio, which is one of the greatest wrestling states in the nation. And he was a state champion. you know, and he also wrestled in college too. Like, he's a bad motherfucker, you know. So I've always said, like, I would be totally down for a Logan Paul MMA fight. And I would much rather that than a boxing one, but we're probably never going to get that. So just seeing him roll with Izzy and Volk was pretty sick. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, any closing thoughts on anything else we want to talk about before we go ahead and move on, man?
Man, I think we did the best out of this week, man. I know definitely the pay-per-view is kind of disappointing a lot of people, man, but I think in the end we'll have a lot of fun results and we'll have some fun fights and potentially some sick finishes. I'm excited as always to come back next week and recap with you, man. My favorite time of the week, obviously. And obviously talk about the next week's card, Jared Kennedy or Marvin Vettori, which is a sick main event, man. Hopefully that one could come out and kind of give us a little bit of a revival. But granted, we don't know what's going to happen this week. We could see a potential huge upset in the title fight. Maybe Charles Oliveira continues to run, or Benito staples his name as number one contender with no questions asked and becoming undeniable. And potentially, we'll probably see him fighting in probably the next time we'll see these guys will be fighting in Abu Dhabi, right?
Mm-hmm.
Likely, I'm assuming so.
I think you closed it out pretty well there, man. Yeah, I mean, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm at Josh Evanoff on Twitter. He's at Angel Ortega _01 at Courtside Sound for all things relating to the show. Shout out to everybody who has followed us from TikTok and YouTube and Shorts and so on and so forth. We appreciate it so much. Peace and bug grease. Mouse click.